हेलो एवरीवन। और आज फिर से आपका स्वागत है। वी आर गोइंग टू कवर एंड फिनिश विथ द एंशिएंट पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया, एंशिएंट इंडिया। तो बिफोर बिगिनिंग विथ टुडेज टॉपिक, लेट अस recap the chronology. Chronology, अब एक बात कहते हैं about the subject of history कि history is about chaps and geography is about maps. So the chaps who are well known, उनके बारे में बात कर लेते हैं कि क्या क्रोनोलॉजी थी। तो सबसे पहले आता है हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन। एंड यू मस्ट नो, अभी एक रिसेंटली न्यूज भी आई है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज गोइंग टू रीनेम इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन एज सिंधु सरस्वती सभ्यता और सिंधु सरस्वती सिविलाइजेशन इन ऑल द न्यू एनसीईआरटी टेक्स्ट बुक्स। सो देयर इज नो नीड फॉर एनी कंफ्यूजन। ये हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन ही सिंधु वैली सिविलाइजेशन बोले, इंडस वैली, इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन। तो हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन इसको इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि दिस वाज द फर्स्ट साइट टू बी डिस्कवर्ड। इट वाज डिस्कवर्ड इन द ईयर 1920 एंड बिकॉज दिस इज द हिंदी नेम सिंधु and there is a now extinct river Saraswati which has been mentioned quite a number of many times in Rigvedic texts and other texts of that period. तो इसीलिए in order to align it with our history, with India's history, another thing that you must remember that this site of Harappa or the another biggest site of this civilization, which is known as Mohenjo-daro, so these are no more present in India. अब ये पाकिस्तान में है। तो क्योंकि ये पाकिस्तान में है इसीलिए we would not like to identify our ancient civilization, our roots with the name of a site which is present in another country. So that becomes another major factor for renaming it as Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So do not be confused, it is one and the same thing. And whatever we had studied about Harappan civilization will apply equally well to Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So this becomes a key part of your current affairs based question. Harappan civilization, iska mature phase was going on around 2300 BCE. Now, some students also have a doubt regarding this nomenclature of BCE versus BC, AD and CE. तो ये AD जो है, जो कि हम क्राइस्ट के बर्थ के बाद, यानी कि अगर इसको हम एक नंबर लाइन पे समझने की कोशिश करें तो दिस 0 point was defined, chosen arbitrarily from the birth of Christ. And because it was Europe that ruled the world for a number of years, इसीलिए this was in use. But why would all the civilizations which are not even Christian, why would they require this Anno Domini? It stands for Anno Domini, which is a Latin term and it means the year of our Lord. तो एक साल बाद after the birth of Christ, the first year of our Lord or the 500th year of our Lord. But we, or since not every civilization, not every country is a Christian country, so that is why in order to bring that secularism, that neutrality in nomenclature of historical dates, it was chosen to be called as CE, which stands for Common Era. Common Era. Because this is in use all over the world, the calendar, that is why Common Era. And before Christ, what was before Christ earlier is now before Common Era. BCE means before Common Era. So this part will become before common era and this part will become the common era. So I hope there will be no confusion regarding AD, CE, BCE or BC. I think it should be pretty clear now. So the mature phase of Indus Valley civilization was going on around 2300 BCE. Then it declines by 1800 BCE. It had declined and begun the influx or coming in of Aryans. Aryan migration happens. So Aryan migration, it will occur over a period of 4, 5, 600 years in multiple waves. People will come and settle down and move to different areas. और यहीं से हमें यह भी समझना चाहिए कि जो अपने इंडिया का मैप है, तो अगर आप उसमें गौर करेंगे, so Kashmir is not very far away from, so if this is Afghanistan, Pakistan, so Pakistan is a recent creation, only created in 1947. उससे पहले even this region was India and Afghanistan too was India, or it was under the control of Emperor Ashok and other such people, other such dynasties. So Iran is our immediate neighbor or was our immediate neighbor in the ancient times. और इसीलिए ये समझने में बहुत दिक्कत नहीं होनी चाहिए कि इंडो इरानियन लैंग्वेज एंड इंडो आर्यन लैंग्वेज, दीज आर नॉट वेरी फार अपार्ट. इनका जो टेक्स्ट है ज़ोरोएस्ट्रियंस का, पारसीज का, ज़ेंड अवेस्ता एंड ऋग्वेदिक संस्कृत, दे आर वेरी मच सिमिलर. इनके वर्ड्स, इनके टर्म्स, जो कॉमन टर्म्स हैं, एक बहुत ही कॉमन सा टर्म है असुर, becomes asur in Sanskrit will be called ahur or ahura in Iranian language, जिसे हम सिंधु बोलेंगे, उसी को इरानियन में हिंदू बोलेंगे. तो this is just one example of how the word s or the sound sa becomes ha. The sound of sa will become ha, and there will be slight minor differences in words. So this Aryan civilization, Aryan settlement, Rigvedic Aryans, around 1000 BCE will be the date of Mahabharat war, according to archaeology and textual analysis. 1000 BCE will be the date of Mahabharat war. After this begins the Janpad period. Janpad or Mahajanpad period. Maha simply means in great size. Its size, the size of these settlements will be great or very large. Mahajanpad period is 600 BCE, and it is right after this Mahajanpad period that the first dynasties, the first empires begin, and it begins with the story of one of the Janpads, that is Magad. Magad will be the first seat of India's empire, and it will be ruled by numerous dynasties: Haryank dynasty, Shishunag dynasty, Nanda dynasty, Mauryan dynasty, Shung dynasty, and Kanva dynasty, which we have already studied about in the previous class. So this is a brief chronology. Another important thing is, how do we identify archaeologically? अब एक जगह पे अगर digging हो रही है, so imagine that the geography is the same, but over time different settlements happen, and so these settlements are found in different layers. जो सबसे नीचे की layer होगी, जब हम archaeological excavations करेंगे, तो जो सबसे नीचे जो layers पाई जाएंगी, वो सबसे पुराने civilization की होंगी. उसके ऊपर next civilization आएगा, but there is no clear cut stratification, and in order to identify that which findings belong to which civilization, there will be some markers. The famous one, which is generally asked in exams, is about the pottery, about the type of pots people used. Nowadays, pots, pans, they don't hold so much importance, they are mass produced. But when it began being produced, then it was one of the major findings or major artifacts of any civilization, because for the first time people were able to store grains, liquids, and such other things. And this too happened only after the invention of the wheel, because even today you would see that pots are made on the potter's wheel. So there are different types of pots that are used to recognize different civilizations. So Harappan civilization is characterized by red and black slipped ware. Red and black slipped ware. Ware matlab bartan. Wares. Then Aryan civilization or Aryan people are recognized by painted grey ware. Painted grey ware. And the Mahajanpad period is recognized by northern. It is called so because the Mahajanpads and these potteries are mainly found in the northern region of India. So it is called northern black polished ware. Black polished ware. There is a high sheen, high degree of shine in these wares. So northern black polished ware. These are what is used to identify the different civilizations. So I hope you understand the chronology and the identification markers. Then what we need to realize is that why we call Buddha or Buddh as the first historical figure is because about Buddha, all the details are present. We know when he was born, where he was born, who were his parents. That is why he is known as the first historical figure of India. And how do we know these things with certainty? Because the texts or religious documents, they were written, they had begun being written in this period. Writing itself was invented at some point of time, and therefore things will be written down and there will be a proper record of things of history, and that is why we will call Buddha as the first historical figure. Where do we get to know about him? We get to know about him in the three Pitakas or Tripitaka. Pitaka means basket. So there is the Abhidharma Pitaka or Sutta or Sutra. सूत्र लिटरेचर. सूत्र लिटरेचर मींस टर्स, एफोरिस्टिक, बहुत ही कम शब्दों में किसी बात को लाइक अ फॉर्मूला आपने लिख दिया, उसी को बोलते हैं सूत्र लिटरेचर. सो सुत्त पिटाका will contain all the sayings that Buddha said, all his teachings during his lifetime. They will be compiled by people, by the Buddhist monks after his death at the first Buddhist council. I hope you remember it from last class. The first Buddhist council was held in Rajgir under the tutelage of Ajatashatru. I hope you remember this name, Ajatashatru of the Haryanka dynasty. In Rajgir, Sutra Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka. Vinay means rules of monastic order. किस बेसिस पे ये जो monks का congregation रहेगा, so every society, every collection of people, when they begin to live together, there have to be some rules, some decorum, and these decorums of the monastery will be called rules of monastic order, will be called Vinay Pitaka. And finally, out of these two, whatever philosophy will be derived will be called Abhidharma or the duty Abhidharma Pitaka. So these are the what we call the canonical literature, the standard literature of Buddhist religion. All these will be written in the language Pali language. And all other different texts will begin to be written. You can understand that only when language begins to be codified so that the meaning does not change much, only then language acquires a proper form. And right after 100, 200 or certain such number of years, these rules will be codified. And the first book to codify the rules of grammar was Panini's. पाणिनि उन ऑथर का नाम है पाणिनीज अष्टाध्यायी. 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 That means the book of 8 chapters. 8 अध्याय. In these 8 chapters, पाणिनि, ये वही पाणिनि है जिनके बारे में बहुत बचपन में या कभी आपने वो सुना होगा. एक कहावत है, करत करत अभ्यास ते जड़मति होत सुजान. तो वो इन्हीं पाणिनि की कहानी है. And he became the first person to write a scientific treatise about any subject, and that was grammar. So he is the preeminent grammarian of the world, not just India. This is a work on grammar, and grammar exists to codify the rules of language so that the language does not change much over time, and the same meaning can be, or whatever meaning any book has been written, it can be conveyed 1000, 2000, 5000 years hence. The same meaning can be conveyed. So this was written in the year 450 BCE. तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि language and writing would have been devised some time before this, because now codification becomes very, very important. And because this is a sutra literature, because these are just formulas. Imagine you have a mathematics textbook which lists down all the formulae, but how will you interpret it? How will you understand it? तो इसी चीज को explain करने के लिए अब बहुत सारे writers, authors, thinkers, they will write explanatory texts on this, which will be called bhashya. Bhashya simply means, bhashya literature will mean explanatory texts. और पाणिनि के अष्टाध्यायी पर लिखा जाने वाला जो बहुत ही एक वेल नोन वर्क है, that will be called महाभाष्य. महाभाष्य, the great commentary on Panini's Ashtadhyayi. This will be written by the progenitor of Yoga Sutras, that is Patanjali. पतंजलि ही इस महाभाष्य के रचयिता होंगे, वही ये किताब लिखेंगे. पतंजलि की जो दूसरी किताब है, which you should know, is Yoga Sutras. Yoga Sutra will be written by Patanjali. So let us get to know a few more books through which we glean some historical facts, through which we know our great heritage and culture. As you can see, first we will talk about the science and mathematics that was prevalent in India. So Aryabhat, इनका नाम सबने सुना है. This was also one of the satellites launched by ISRO, early satellites. So आर्यभट्ट की लिखी हुई किताबें हैं आर्यभाटिया, आर्य सिद्धांत. सिद्धांत मतलब प्रिंसिपल्स. और अगर आपको पता हो तो सर आइजैक न्यूटन की भी लिखी हुई जो किताब है उसका नाम है प्रिंसिपिया. or principles. So this will talk about the movement of astronomical bodies, and what we wrongly sometimes ascribe to Aryabhat is that he started or he devised the use of zero, but it is not so. He did not devise or start using zero. Rather, he was the first, or his book was the first book in which the use of zero or the place value system has been found. The first evidence of it has been found. Whereas the first time where zero was used in Aryabhatta's works, this has been seen to be in existence, properly in use. The first time where it is used is seen in Bakshali manuscript, a manuscript handwritten work that was discovered from this place, Bakshali. And this Bakshali manuscript was written in the Sarda language. Sarda language. The script will be Kharoshti. Sarda language. Then what was achieved by Aryabhat was an approximation of pi, and it was a very wonderful approximation, very close to it. 3.14. He definitely reached this. The further values might have deviated somewhat. Then we have another great mathematician who was known as Brahmagupta, and his work is Brahma's Foot Siddhantika. Brahma's Foot Siddhantika and Khand Khandyak. He was the first to give rules to compute with zero, using zero and the place value system. He will be the first person to give rules for calculation based on this zero usage and place value system. Then other books that he will write or other works of his, which were not, because they were not so prevalent in the West, because people did not know him. That is why now people have come to recognize, after these texts have been discovered and some doxographical research. Doxography, it is the study of documents and ascribing proper time period to them, proper whose work it was, who wrote it, who authored it. Such kind of works have been established, and it is realized that he already knew about Fibonacci sequence, Fibonacci identity. Then Bhaskar. So there is a difference between Bhaskar and Bhaskaracharya. So this is simply Bhaskar, not Bhaskaracharya, or we can call him Bhaskar first, Bhaskar 1. So he will now give a commentary and explanatory note on Aryabhatta's works, and this will be called Aryabhatiya Bhashya. Wherever you see this Bhashya, you should understand that it is not a Sutra literature, it is a Bhashya literature, and it will be an explanatory work based on some kind of Sutra literature. Then he will write Mahabhaskariya. If at all you do get this question, then already his name is present, Bhaskar, so you can easily take that answer. And Mahabhaskariya and Laghu Bhaskariya, these will be his works. Then Varahamihir, another preeminent scientist of ancient India, he will write Panchasiddhantika. This Panchasiddhantika will contain all the works already known in India will be compiled in this Panchasiddhantika by Varahamihir, and these works will be Paitamaha Siddhant, Paitamaha, or grandfather. Pitamaha is grandfather. Even today, if you are a book lover, if you read many books, then you will see that some books, there is a very famous mathematician, Walter Rudin, who has written numerous books on calculus and analysis. So some of his books are known as Grandfather Rudin, Papa Rudin. So उसी तरीके से जो सबसे पुराने जाने हुए सिद्धांत थे, उनको बोलेंगे पैतामह सिद्धांत. Then there was something known as रोमक सिद्धांत. रोमक सिद्धांत, and this is ascribed to, it is not sure, we are not certain whether it belonged to Rome or not, but the contact between Rome, Macedonia and India was very strong, and so it cannot be denied that some such works happening in Roman and Greek places were known. Another important discovery that has been made, so this device was found not recently, but research and other works, other detailing on it kept happening, and only now scientists have come out with some kind of description of it. It is known as the Antikythera mechanism. You can see it is a clock-like, it is a very complex device which was recovered from one of the shipwrecks in the ocean. Antikythera mechanism. So it seems to be something of a clock which was used to find out the motion of planetary bodies, to predict eclipses, solar and lunar, and such kind of things. Paulissa Siddhant. So there are debates about it, but usually it is ascribed to Paul, Saint Paul. Saint Paul, the first apostle of Jesus Christ. So Paulist Siddhant, Romak Siddhant, Paitama Siddhant, all these principles about astrological calculations, they will be included in Varaha Mihir's work Panch Siddhantika, and he will also write a book known as Brihat Siddhantika. This will contain all of the knowledge that was known till that time. It is a very huge body of work. It is a tome, and this contains works on Ayurveda, taxonomy, and such other well-known scientific endeavors of early mankind. Then Bhaskaracharya or Bhaskara II, he will write Siddhant Shiromani, or the queen or the jewel of all the principles. He will write down that book. As you can see, now mathematics also has developed some history starting from Aryabhat, and there will be work built upon the work of previous scientists. And this is what is known as standing on the shoulder of giants. So what Einstein used to say for Newton was that, or for himself, that he already had the support, he already had all the knowledge because of the work done by scientists that came before him. But Newton was somebody, as said by Einstein, that he had no giants on whose shoulders he stood, but Einstein himself was standing on the shoulder of giants, so he could look further away. Some such kind of thing is happening here as well, because Bhaskaracharya will already have the works of people like Aryabhat and Varahamihir, so he will be able to write something known as Siddhant Shiromani. And this Siddhant Shiromani is divided into 4 parts, that is Leelavati, Bij Ganit, Grah Ganit, and Goladhyay. Goladhyay will have to do with circles. Grah Ganit will be about astronomy, algebra, and arithmetic. Then we know now that Bhaskaracharya's Siddhant Shiromani will contain identities, will contain mathematics that was supposedly invented by Newton and Leibniz, something on the lines of calculus, but it will already be done or touched upon in Bhaskaracharya's work. And there will also be a proof of Pythagorean theorem. Now we know, you should know that Pythagoras, we all have read Pythagoras theorem. So Pythagoras also is supposed to have toured Egypt, India, all these places. So it is not very difficult to assume or surmise that Bhaskaracharya will write a proof on Pythagoras theorem. Then we have Madhavacharya, who comes in the medieval period, not in the ancient period, but Madhavacharya will do works on infinite series, Taylor series, and such other series that help us in calculus. So all these works will be done in India by these great mathematicians. Then what we need to know about Ramayana and Mahabharata, that there is not just one single Ramayana, there are hundreds of Ramayana spread across India. India is already such a huge country, it has such diverse regions, such diverse cultures, so there will be hundreds of different versions of Ramayana, also because all the court poets, they will try to glorify their kings, they will try to write about their own kings and princes in glowing words, and they will try to model, or they will try to show that our king is something like a Ram, something like a god, and that is why there will be hundreds of versions of Ramayana. Then it was compiled over 1,000 years. तो जो वर्ड होता है, जनरली कहते हैं कि महाभारत वेद व्यास द्वारा लिखी गई, तो ये जो वर्ड होता है व्यास मीन्स, इस वर्ड का जो मीनिंग है, व्यास मीन्स अरेंजर, somebody who arranges. Imagine that you find a textbook torn apart and spread across different, let's say, different drawers of a desk. Now you need to arrange it sequentially and in a meaningful way, so that when you read the full text there is a meaning derived out of it. So व्यास का मतलब ही होता है somebody who arranges. इसीलिए we ascribe Mahabharat to Ved Vyas, but Mahabharat itself has the history that first, before being called Mahabharat, the core portion of Mahabharat was called Jay, and it had only 8800 verses. जब समय आगे बढ़ा और भी सारे ऑब्जर्वेशंस किए लोगों ने अबाउट पॉलिटिकल एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एंड हिस्टोरिकल मॉरल, ऑल दीज लर्निंग्स वर डिराइव्ड, तो उसी को कंपाइल कर देंगे इसी टेक्स्ट के कोर के ऊपर, एंड नाउ इट विल बी नोन एज भारत, विच विल हैव 24,000 वर्सेस, एंड फर्दर जब इसमें और भी एडिशंस कर देंगे तो ये बन जाएगा महाभारत, जिसमें होंगे 1,00,000 वर्सेस और सत सहस्री 100, सहस्त्र मीन्स 1000, so shat sahasri samhita, the samahita, the collection of verses which has 1,00,000 verses in number. Then what is महाकाव्य लिटरेचर? So महाकाव्य लिटरेचर संस्कृत का वो जॉनर है जिसमें themes will always be picked up, the themes of these works will always, they have to be from Ramayana and महाभारत. रामायण और महाभारत में से ही जब थीम्स लिए जाएंगे तभी कोई वर्क, तभी कोई प्ले, पोएट्री, उसको महाकाव्य बोलेंगे. ये महाकाव्य लिखने वाले, देयर आर अ फ्यू पोएट्स. सबसे पहले हैं और सबसे पुराने जिनका नाम कालिदास भी अपनी किताब में लिखते हैं, उनका नाम ही है भाष, एंड ही इज नोन एज द फादर ऑफ संस्कृत ड्रामा. इनकी लिखी हुई किताबें हैं उरुभंग, कर्णभारम, और इनके बारे में यूनिक बात यह है कि दीज आर द ओनली ट्रेजिक प्लेज which end in a tragedy, which do not have a happy ending. तो यही दो प्लेज ऐसे होंगे जो कि ट्रेजिक प्लेज हैं इंडिया के, बिकॉज अकॉर्डिंग टू भरत मुनि, हु इज ascribed with the work नाट्य शास्त्र. भरत मुनि he will write, or to him is ascribed नाट्य शास्त्र. नाट्य शास्त्र, Natya Shastra. There are many other such Shastra like Shilpa Shastra, Natya Shastra, Viman Shastra. So techniques of doing any particular craft, any art, that will be known as Shastra. So Bharat Muni will give a rule in Natya Shastra that no play should end tragically, and that is why after a certain maturity of the Sanskrit literature, nobody will ever attempt to write tragic ending or plays that end in a tragedy. So other works, Dut Vakya. So you know, in Ramayana as well as in Mahabharat, there are many emissaries, जैसे कि Ghatotkacha will go for a dialogue, or Sugriv will go for a Sugriv, another character in Mahabharat, he goes as an ambassador of Lord Ram to have a dialogue with Angad. Angad will go to Ravan's court to have a dialogue with him. तो इसी तरह की चीजों के बारे में ये प्लेस लिखे जाएंगे. दूत घटोत्कच, and you should know that these plays become the basis of Kudiyattam theatre, which is still performed in Kerala. Then other plays written by him will be Swapnavasav Dattam. What you should know is that this Vasav Datta is a fictitious character, might have been somebody real, but this Vasav Datta will be one of the motifs of plays and poetry written in Sanskrit. और वासव दत्ता के ऊपर बहुत सारे किताबें लिखी जाएंगी इस कैरेक्टर को सेंट्रल रखते हुए. One of the books will be known as Vasav Datta. Another one you have already seen is known as Swapna Vasav Dattam. Then there will be something known as Veena Vasav Dattam. Vasav Datta who plays Veena. This will be written by Shudraka. Shudraka is famous for his play Mrichakatikam, or the clay cart, which describes the story of how with the help of Chandragupta Maurya, Chanakya will avenge his insult in the Nanda court. He will end up destroying the Nanda dynasty with the help of Chandragupta, or Chandragupta destroying the Nanda dynasty with the help of Chanakya. तो इसी बारे में शूद्रक लिखेंगे अपनी दूसरी किताब मृच्छकटिकम. Then Kalidasa's epic plays are Kumar Sambhavam, the birth of Kumar. It will deal with the marriage of Shiv and Parvati, and Raghuvansh. Raghuvansh will be about Ram, but this will be an incomplete play. He could not complete it during his lifetime, so this will be an incomplete play. Then there is Bharavi, who will write Kirat Arjunia. Kirat, when Lord Shiv, he disguises himself as a forest dweller, and he's a Dhanurdhar, he's an archer as well, and he will fight Arjun, challenge his might. So इसी बारे में है आपकी किरात अर्जुनिया. You see, this is again a theme derived from Mahabharat. And there will be Shri Harsh, who will write Naishad Charitram. Naishad Charitram will be the story of the famous cooks Nal and Damayanti. Nal and Damayanti. So this is again a theme taken from Mahabharat. And sometimes we also hear that Bhatti Kavya is also included in the Mahakavya corpus. So you should just know this name, Bhatti Kavya. Other works of Kalidas that you should definitely know. Kalidas is called the Shakespeare of the East, but Shakespeare should be called Kalidas of the West, because Kalidas predates him as in chronology as well as in the number of great works he has written. So कालिदास की दूसरी किताबें होंगी मेघदूतम. Meghdootam, cloud messenger between two lovers. One of the lovers will tell that go and convey these messages to my lover sitting far away. Then other work is Abhigyana Shakuntalam. Abhigyana Shakuntalam, in which the king forgets his beloved Shakuntala because she loses the ring, and so the story goes. Meghdootam, Abhigyana Shakuntalam, these are other famous works by Kalidas. Kalidas is supposed to be one of the 9 gems of the Gupta court. Then other famous plays of Kalidas are Malvika Agnimitram, Meghdootam, Abhigyana Shakuntalam, and Vikram Urvashyam. Vikram and Urvashi, the love between Vikram and a celestial nymph, an Apsara known as Urvashi. Malvika Agnimitram will describe the story of Agnimitra. Agnimitra, who was a son of this general, Mauryan general of Mauryan dynasty, who will kill the last ruler of Mauryan dynasty, Pushyamitra Shung. Agnimitra was the son of this general, Pushyamitra Shung. And it was Pushyamitra Shung who in the year 185 BCE will kill the last ruler of Mauryan dynasty known as Brihadrat. And after this, the Shunga dynasty will rule for about 112 years, after which they will be replaced by the Kanva dynasty, and then there will be the rise of Guptas after a brief period of political vacuum. There will be the rise of Guptas. Then we have some schools of Indian philosophy. So these are, why I have written them together is because one provides the metaphysics, one provides the theoretical details, and the other will provide the praxis or how to attain this vision, how to know these things that we are reading about, that we are studying, how do we attain that in practice. So Sankhya and Yoga are belong together. Nyay and Vaiseshik, they belong together. Then there is Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. Or Uttar Mimamsa is also known as Vedant or the end of Vedas, जो कि ये सारा जो philosophy है, this will be derived from Upanishads. Upanishads. So what you need to know is that first there will be the Vedas or Samahitas. Samahita means collection of mantra, like we saw in case of Shat Sahasri Samahita, collection, the corpus of those mantra. From Vedas, Ved will describe anthropomorphism and the beauty and detail all the gods and goddesses. Then people will move to the jungles and write. Before that, there will be Brahmana texts. Brahmana texts, like for example, Shatpath Brahman. Shatpath Brahman, or 100 ways, 100 paths to Brahma. Brahmana texts. Then will come Aranyakas. People, Aranya means jungle, and Aranyak means those texts written in the quiet of forests, and that is where the bubbles of philosophy will begin. It will culminate into this beautiful flower of Upanishads. Literally, Upanishads mean to sit next to the Guru and gain knowledge, break your illusions. So, this Sankhya is ascribed to Kapil Muni. Yog, as we saw, belongs to or was started by or was written upon by Patanjali. Nyay will belong to Gautam. Vaiseshik, Kanad. So Kanad is also famous for giving the atomic theory of matter, just like Democritus in ancient Greece has given the atomic theory, based on which John Dalton came up with the modern version of atomic theory. Purv Mimamsa will be given by Jaimini. Jaimini Siddhant, Jaiminiya Siddhant. So Jaimini. Uttar Mimamsa, Vedant. So there are many authors who will write, who will contribute to this, but primary among them are the Brahma Sutra and Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya will be the person who will take Vedant to its ultimate heights. So all these schools, they never opposed, they never said that Vedas were wrong. They will say that Vedas are 100% infallible, कोई गलती नहीं कर सकते हैं. Whereas the heterodox schools, they are known as heterodox because these are the orthodox schools. Orthodox जो कि वेदों को infallible मानेंगे, and heterodox will say that only reason is supreme. There is no text which can be infallible. तो इसी में है आपका जैनिज्म, बुद्धिज्म, सबको पता है महावीर, बुद्ध. चारवाक एस्क्राइब करते हैं बृहस्पति को. बृहस्पति. एंड देन देयर विल बी आजीविका. यही वो आजीविका सेक्ट है. दे आर द फेटलिस्ट्स हु विल से that whatever has to happen will happen, and it wasn't started by, but there is this famous person in history, Makkali Gosal. And King Bindusar, father of Ashok, he will be a follower of Ajivika sect, and it will be to the Ajivika sect that Ashok will donate the Nagarjuni and Barabar caves, and there will be the Lomas Rishi cave constructed for the Ajivika sect. So these are the schools of 6 schools of Indian philosophy. That is why They are also known as Shad Darshan. Shad Darshan. 6 schools of Indian philosophy. Shad Darshan, 6 schools of Indian philosophy. Then these are the travelers who came to India during the reign of different dynasties, and we get to know a lot from their description of India. So the first amongst them, whose book from which we glean a lot of historical facts, was Megasthenes, who was present in the Mauryan court, in Chandragupta's court, sent by Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus Nicator, one of the generals of Alexander, who will offer the hand of his daughter in marriage with Chandragupta Maurya. And his book is called Indica, in which he will say that Indian society, India has 7 strata in its society. There are the philosophers, that is the Brahmins, there are soldiers, rulers, agriculturalists, artisans. These are the 7 strata in which he will divide India. Then there is Fahian, who came from China. His book is known as Record of the Buddhist Kingdoms, and he will visit during the Gupta period. Then we have Xuanzang, or what we know as Huan Sang. Huan Sang, Xuanzang. He will also come from China. His book is known as CUET, or Record of the Western World, and he will visit the court of Emperor Harshvardhan, Harsha's court, and eventually he will convert Harsh into a Buddhist. Then Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni belonged to the court of a very brutal plunderer known as Mahmud of Ghazni. So Al-Biruni was present in his court, but he did translate some great works. We do not need to ascribe his personality or the hatred for Mahmud to Al-Biruni. He was a scholar present in his court, and he translated a lot of mathematical texts, some Upanishads, and because of him, it traveled to Europe through Persia. All of the mathematics, some of the philosophy will travel to Europe through the route of Persia with his contributions. So his book is known as Kitab al-Hind and 11th century, because we know that Mahmud invaded India from 1000 to 1025 AD. Then Marco Polo. Now we have come to the medieval times, or even at the time of Al-Biruni, medieval times have begun here. Marco Polo from Italy. His book is known simply as the Travels of Marco Polo. This is the time period during which he visited India from 1254 to 1324. Ibn Battuta from Morocco. His book will be known as Rihla from 1333 to 1342. So he will also be a Qazi appointed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he will also visit the Vijayanagar Empire. Then we have Abdul Razzaq coming from Persia, and his book is known as Matla'us Sadain wa Majma'ul Bahrain. From 1443 to 1444, he will visit India. Athanasius or Anastasia Nikitin, he will come from Russia, and his book will be called The Journey Beyond the Three Seas. From 1470 to 1474, he will travel all across India. Then Duarte Barbosa, Domingo Paes, these both come from Portugal, and you know that in 1498, Vasco da Gama from Portugal, he had landed in Calicut on the eastern coast of India. So the influx of Portuguese travelers will increase. And this brings us to a conclusion of important historical facts regarding ancient India and some of the travelers who came to India, through whose books we get to know some of the facts of history that we know today. Thank you.